For years, fans have speculated about the real connection between Dylan Wang and Shen Yue. Every scene they shared, every laugh caught between takes, every quiet glance that lingered longer than it should have, all seemed to hint at something deeper. Something unspoken. Something that neither of them ever confirmed, but both of them seemed to carry in the quiet moments when the cameras stopped rolling. When they first met on the set of Meteor Garden, no one expected their chemistry to feel so real. It wasn't just acting. It wasn't just lines from a script. There was something about the way Shen Yue looked at Dylan, that spark of recognition, like she saw something in him that no one else did. And Dylan, usually confident and teasing, became softer around her. He laughed more. He listened more. Even the crew noticed it. One makeup artist once whispered during an interview, "You could tell, just from the way he looked at her." He never broke character when it came to her. As filming continued, fans began to notice small details that the camera didn't intend to capture. During one behind-the-scenes clip, Shen Yue tripped slightly, and before anyone could react, Dylan reached out instinctively, steadying her with both hands. Their eyes met, and for a few seconds, no one said a word. It was just the two of them, standing in that unscripted moment, completely lost in it. The director eventually called them back to the scene, but that moment stayed with fans for years. What no one knew then was that behind that on-screen connection was a growing emotional tension that neither of them dared to address. They were both young, new to fame, and unsure of what lines they were allowed to cross. Yet, every interview, every red carpet, every reunion brought that tension back to life. When asked about Dylan, Shen Yue would smile in that soft, hesitant way that always made fans wonder what she wasn't saying. When Dylan was asked about her, he would laugh it off at first, then grow serious, saying things like, "She's special. You can't not care about her." Years later, as they both went their separate ways, different projects, different worlds, the silence between them began to speak louder than words. But recently, everything changed. During an interview for a new drama, a reporter casually brought up Shen Yue's name, asking Dylan if he still kept in touch with her. His reaction caught everyone off guard. He smiled, looked down, and after a long pause said, "There are people you don't talk to every day, but they never leave your mind." The host laughed lightly, but Dylan didn't. His voice stayed soft, reflective, carrying an emotion that made the entire room go still. That one line broke the internet. Clips of that moment spread everywhere, and within hours, Shen Yue's social media was flooded with comments asking if she had seen what Dylan said. For days, she said nothing. But then, something unexpected happened. A fan posted an old picture of Shen Yue and Dylan from their early Meteor Garden days, the two of them sitting on the floor between takes, laughing over something only they understood. The post's caption read, "Maybe they were never just acting." Within an hour, Shen Yue quietly liked the post. That single action reignited everything. Fans went wild. News outlets picked it up. And those who had followed their journey from the beginning knew it wasn't accidental. It was her silent acknowledgement. But it didn't end there. Just a week later, during a behind-the-scenes feature for one of her new projects, the interviewer asked her about Dylan's confession. Shen Yue's expression shifted slightly. Not nervous, not surprised, just thoughtful. She looked away for a moment, smiled faintly, and said, "Sometimes, what you feel doesn't need to be said out loud for it to be real." Those words spread like wildfire. It wasn't a denial. It wasn't avoidance. It was quiet truth wrapped in mystery, the kind of answer that said everything without saying anything at all. Industry insiders later revealed that Dylan had sent a message to Shen Yue after that interview, congratulating her on her success. No one knows exactly what she replied, but what happened next sent fans into a frenzy. A photo leaked from a closed industry event, a private charity dinner attended by only a handful of celebrities. In the background of one shot, just barely visible, were Dylan and Shen Yue, sitting together at a corner table. They weren't posing, they weren't aware of the camera, they were just talking, quietly, closely, with a kind of comfort that only comes from years of understanding. People began to say that their story was never over, that it had just paused, waiting for the right time to continue. And maybe this was that time. In the weeks that followed, subtle clues began to appear. Shen Yue was seen wearing a bracelet strikingly similar to the one Dylan had once given her on set years ago. Dylan, in one of his recent photo shoots, wore a ring with an engraving that fans believed was linked to a line from their old drama. None of this was confirmed, but the timing felt too perfect to be coincidence. And then, in a moment that no one expected, the two were announced as leads in a new project together. The announcement caused the internet to crash within minutes. Fans around the world flooded the comments with messages like, "They're back where it all began," and "Some connections never fade." On the first day of filming, a short clip leaked showing Dylan and Shen Yue walking to the set together. It was simple, no drama, no act, but there was something about the way they smiled at each other that said everything. That unspoken understanding, that quiet spark that had always been there, was still alive. Those who saw it said their chemistry was stronger than ever. During one emotional scene, Shen Yue's eyes glistened as Dylan delivered his lines, and when the director called cut, she stayed in the moment for a few seconds longer, as if the emotions weren't just part of the script. Later that night, Dylan was interviewed again, asked what it was like working with Shen Yue after all these years. He paused, then said softly, "Sometimes the best stories are the ones you don't plan. They just find their way back to you." And that was when everyone realized, this wasn't just a reunion. It was a continuation of something that had never really ended. For fans who had watched their journey from the very beginning, it felt like a dream unfolding in real time. The subtle glances, the quiet smiles, the words left unsaid, they all painted a picture of two people who had always shared something real, something they might have hidden from the world but never from each other. As the world watched, one thing became clear. Shen Yue's hidden feelings for Dylan were never really hidden at all. They had always been there, in the way she looked at him, in the way she smiled when his name was mentioned, in the silence she kept when everyone demanded answers. And now, after years of distance, their story had found its way back to the light, not as a rumor, not as speculation, but as something real, something timeless, something that even time itself couldn't erase. The night before the press event, Shen Yue sat by her window, the city lights flickering like memories she could not turn off. She had practiced her lines for the upcoming drama, but the words kept fading into the echo of one voice, Dylan's. The same voice that once told her that fame was fragile, that love was heavier than success, that silence sometimes said more than words ever could. Her phone buzzed once. It was his name on the screen. For a long moment, she couldn't move. It had been months since they last spoke, months since they had quietly drifted apart while the world still whispered their names together. She finally answered, her voice trembling like the night wind. "You," Dylan said softly, the same tone that had once made her forget the cameras around them. "I saw the clip from your interview." She felt her heart stop for a second. The interview where she had almost slipped, almost said his name when asked who had inspired her the most. She tried to laugh it off, but her voice broke. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "It just came out." Dylan chuckled faintly, a sound that carried more emotion than she was ready for. "You always mean what you say. That's why I called." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was electric. Every unspoken word between them floated in that stillness. Every missed message, every hidden glance, every moment when they wanted to say more but couldn't, it all returned like a haunting melody. "I watched our old scene," Dylan said after a while. "The one by the river. Do you remember what you said to me before they called action?" Shen Yue closed her eyes. She remembered every detail. The cold wind. The nervous laughter. The way he looked at her when she wasn't acting. She remembered saying that one day, she hoped people would look at them and see something real. Now, years later, the world still did. And maybe that was the problem. "I remember," she replied, her voice low. "You told me not to fall for the story. But I did. I fell for the way it felt real even when it shouldn't." Dylan exhaled deeply, as though those words hit harder than he expected. "So did I," he said finally. And maybe that's why we both ran away. Her eyes glistened, not from sadness, but from the weight of truth. Everything between them had been caught in the space between fiction and reality. Every rumor, every scene, every fan theory, they had all been reflections of a connection neither could name but both could feel. Then came the part she wasn't prepared for. Dylan's voice grew quieter, steadier. I'm leaving for a new film abroad. I don't know when I'll be back. I just wanted to say, whatever happens, I don't regret any of it. Not a single day. She tried to smile, but it came out as a whisper of heartbreak. You always say things that make it harder to move on. And you always make it impossible not to care, he replied. There it was again, that invisible thread that refused to break no matter how far apart they drifted. When the call ended, Shen Yue didn't cry. Instead, she smiled, a quiet smile that held everything she could never say out loud. She walked to her desk, opened her journal, and wrote down one final note, not for the cameras, not for the fans, but for herself. It read, "Sometimes love doesn't need to be declared. It just needs to be remembered." Weeks later, during a live interview for her new project, a journalist asked her what she thought about Dylan's latest film. For a moment, the studio lights dimmed, and everyone waited for her answer. She looked straight into the camera and said softly, "I think he's still the best co-star I ever had. And maybe the person who understood me the most." The room went silent. Viewers across the world paused. In that single sentence, she didn't just speak about acting. She confessed everything she had hidden for years. Fans flooded the internet, claiming that Shen Yue had finally revealed the truth. Clips of her smile went viral. Even Dylan, miles away on a foreign set, saw it. And though he didn't respond publicly, people close to him said he watched the video over and over again, every time with the same quiet smile. The story didn't end in a grand reunion or dramatic embrace. It ended in something far more powerful, understanding. A silent promise that some connections never fade, even when the cameras stop rolling. And that night, as the stars hung low over the city, both of them looked up at the same sky, in different places, but with the same thought. Some stories never really end. They just live forever in the spaces between what was said and what was felt.